And good morning. Today we are going to be wrapping up March. I have been falling behind quite a bit. And so that also means, again, I won't have stats for you guys. It is very early in the morning, so I'm in need of some coffee. My mug is fading. I hate that. My son stuck it in the dishwasher, but I hope you guys enjoy the sentiment here. I think I can truck along. Also, you might see a little bit of a hint at what is also coming later today, or what I will be recording later today. I'm very excited for it, very excited for it. But let's go ahead and wrap up March since I keep falling behind on when this video goes up. There are a few books that I am very excited to talk to you about, especially one. And then you're going to see that not everything has hit this year. Not everything that I was excited for has been just gravy. And that's going to start off with the first book here. Oh, I do need to also mention, I made the thumbnail before I realized North is the Night was not going to be on my March wrap up. But yeah, so even though that's in the thumbnail, I won't be talking about it here because I decided to put it off to April so that I could fit it into my Our Fantasy Bingo and my Magical Readathon. So I was able to read 11 books. I will also post an image of my, what I'm reading, like my genres right here. So you guys can see that I'm still reading very well-roundedly. I'm very excited about that. I do still love fantasy. I do still love sci-fi. I'm falling back a little bit on my horror roots, so that's fun. But you'll see that I'm still trying to round out my reading, so I'm not facing burnout at any time. My average rating is still at like a 4-star. And that's pretty exciting. All that being said, though, if you guys have been around for a little bit, you might know my feelings on this book already, or you might have heard me mention how I thought I was going to feel about this book. But I started the month off what I thought was going to be strong with Scythe and Sparrow by Bren Weaver. This is the third book of the Ruinous Love trilogy, so the final book. And let me tell you how disappointed I was with this book. I am so frustrated because I knew by the way the second book went that we were going to be forced into a storyline. This is a problem I have with a lot of retellings. This is a problem I have with series that want to follow different characters. We read it already. We didn't need that story because we read it before. And them Bren Weaver trying to tie all of these stories together did not work for Scythe and Sparrow. Not at all. It made a lot of this plot very forced, and I did not like that. Now, I did love the smut. It was on par with what Bren Weaver has been doing through this whole trilogy. I did like the characters, but nothing compares to Butcher and Blackbird. I'm just gonna say it. If you like dark romance, if you are interested in that mafia-style, serial killer-esque type romance, nothing beats Butcher and Blackbird. But my ratings of this series have gone down with each book, and I gave this one 3 stars, which is kind of unheard of in this era of my life because I seem to be reading only 4 stars or above, or I have had some 3.5, but I was disappointed and I called it. I knew I was going to be disappointed. I knew with the way the second book went, like I said, that this one was going to try to stick too closely to what we already knew. Now, had these couples all had their own story, I feel like it would have been much better. Like if we would have just broken off from the original storyline and given them their own space, would have loved it. Absolutely would have loved it. And I like Rose a lot, but of the brothers, Theon is definitely not my favorite. And this does follow 3 brothers. That's the other thing. Their stories are so tied together because of that. Now, the girls are all friends, but that doesn't tie them as closely together as, you know, the brother relationship does. And I think forcing this main character, male main character, Theon, to be in line with his brothers, it just felt that way. It felt forced. And so I'm still going to hang on to these because as a series, I really love it. It's still like a 4-star series for me because even though this was a 3, I liked it. I didn't love it like I did Butcher and Blackbird or Leather and Lark, but I liked it enough to hold on to it, to keep it on my shelves and possibly reread, because if I was to read them back to back, I think there might be a little bit more hope for this one because, you know, I will have picked up on the things that I didn't this go round. And then, who is she? I actually picked up some epic fantasy. Oh, I was so excited to delve into this one for so many reasons. I can verify there's not really a heist in this. It could be like somewhat considered a heist, but no heist, no planning, no backdoor dealing. That's not what's here. This is completely a revenge story. There are some trials that our main character goes through, which I do like that. And I really loved the main character, Lucan. I think that's his name. I do feel like the dark humor in here is a little bit less than what I expected, and that's okay. Humor does not always hit right for me. I don't feel like Scott Lynch and Joe Abercrombie are good comparisons for this because I don't feel like this is grimdark, but it is dark fantasy. There is a revenge plot, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave this 4.5 stars. But we have Lucan, who is a card sharp, who has left his life of luxury because of something that happened while he was in school. It's kind of a big deal, but he's also kind of pissed about it because the way it went down and how everyone came after him after the fact. And he's told that his father has died. Now, it's also told to him that it may be under nefarious circumstances. And so he goes to try and figure out what actually happened, tracking down the people closest to his father, trying to get the whole story. In doing so, he encounters some very dangerous people and he puts himself into very dangerous positions, but it was really good. It was fantastic. This is what I have been missing lately. And I know I said I wanted a very well-rounded reading year, but this is what I love. This and horror are top tier things for me. And so I was very excited to settle into this world. You guys know I've had this on my TBR since the beginning of the year, but I did finally read it. Really, really loved it. Like I said, 4.5. Not quite a 5-star, but almost there. I feel like the second book in this series could probably get me to a 5-star, even though that's a little iffy because second books can have middle book syndrome. They can. I just like where this one left off. And then for some unknown reason, I think it was because it was floating around the Discord, or my Discord in particular, and we got to talking about the audiobook for this, and everyone told me the audiobook was great, and I was like, cool, I love audiobooks. So I listened to Lights Out. Now, if you guys don't know what Lights Out is, let's talk about the phenomena that has overtaken BookTok. That is masked men. Masked men doing creepy, sometimes sexy things on BookTok, on the internets. We can talk about Disney World if you want to, because it happened there, or Universal Studios, one of the two. It was Harry Potter World, so it had to be Universal Studios, right? Anyway, the phenomena that has rocked the talk is very much in play in this story. And we have our main character who is kind of obsessed with this guy that she sees on the internet, watches all of his videos, comments on all of his videos. And unbeknownst to her, she might actually know this guy. And so she kind of just falls into this situation a little bit, but this guy knows who she is. She does not exactly know who he is. And when something happens and she breaks up with her boyfriend, he decides to take it upon himself to stalk her back because she's essentially stalking him. And he breaks into her house and everything, but it actually turns into a very cute romance and I really enjoyed it. So I gave it 4 stars because it, like, even though it starts very rocky in a way that I'm like, whoa, 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 it's cute. There's a reason this book has been floating around BookTok and a reason why so many people are reading it and loving it, but it's because the romance is adorable. Now, he is very overbearing. So if that's not something that you like, you might not like this. He's overbearing, he's protective. There's reasons for it. If you push through to figure out the reasons, you realize how sweet it actually is. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. And then next, for a trope that I actually really don't like, I loved this. The Undermining of Twyla and Frank. This is the second book to The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. It is set in the same universe. Heart and Mercy are in here, so I do recommend reading The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy before this one. But in this, we have 2 older people who have stumbled through life and have kind of done their own thing. And if you guys know anything about the Marshalls, which if you've read The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, you do, you figure out that these two are marshals and they have been partnered for quite some time. Something starts to go awry and dragons start attacking. That's kind of like where the marshals come into play in here. A body is found, the dragons are attacking, and everybody needs to know why. I might just read you the synopsis because I can't remember what's a spoiler and what's not. The small town of Eternity was shocked when widowed middle-aged Twyla Banneker partnered up with her neighbor and best friend Frank Ellis to join the Tanrian Marshals. Thankfully, patrolling the magical wilderness of Tanria is mostly an uneventful job these days. And if you've read The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, you will know why. But when a dragon-sized footprint is discovered near the body of a dead marshal, the job suddenly becomes a lot more interesting. Quill, a handsome dragonologist, is called in from the university to help them investigate. And for the first time since her husband died, Twyla finds herself the flattering focus of an appropriately aged man's attraction, something that seems to be bothering her longtime best friend, Frank. As Twyla and Frank's investigation becomes more complicated, so does their easy friendship. And Twyla starts to realize that her true soulmate might just be the person who has lived next door all along. Okay, yeah. So what I said was definitely a spoiler previously. So I will cut that for you guys. But I don't typically like friends to lovers. And the reason is you can't convince me there's a good reason that they haven't been together already. This one actually does that. This one actually gives me a reason to believe in why they haven't been together the whole time. And even the two of them aren't quite sure what they want in the latter part of their life because they are older. They know what they've had. They know what they don't want, but they don't know how to reach what they do want. And so it's really, really entertaining. I gave this one, again, 4.5 stars. Not quite what I gave The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, but you have to keep in mind, The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy is enemies to lovers. This is friends to lovers, and friends to lovers will never beat enemies to lovers for me, regardless of how much I actually love this. But this does get into a little bit heavier topics, and it did make me cry. This does focus, like I said, on the latter years of their life, so there are some emotional gut punches there. And I did enjoy that aspect of this quite a bit. Okay, next I read The Wren and the Holly Library. Now, I don't have a copy to hold up for you. Actually, I do. It's just at the very bottom of a stack of unhauls. And I went into this not really knowing what to expect. So let me give you a little bit of a synopsis, heads up, that kind of thing. We have a main character who is told all she needs to do is infiltrate this house and steal this diamond, come out, bring it back, all is good. This sounds too easy for her, but the payoff is huge. And so she is definitely willing to do this. She is a thief. I'm sorry if you can hear my Discord going off in the background. And when she does this, it seems too easy altogether because there's nothing stopping her from getting into this house, into this library, stealing this diamond. But before she can walk out, someone stops her, and it is the owner of the home itself. And he tells her that she has the ability to walk through wards, to disable wards. And she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I just kind of waltzed myself in here. I did nothing. And he's like, yeah, but this whole house is warded and you're not supposed to be able to do that. Well, she is human and she has been told that monsters exist, but they don't have magic. And she's learning very quickly that that is not true. Now, let me just say, I enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars on my Compile rating. But in thinking about it, most of this is kind of la 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 in my brain. It's wandering away. I'm starting to forget things about it. It's not sticking. So is it a 4-star or is it a 3.5? I am unhauling it because I didn't love it. And as far as like a romantasy goes, this is not my favorite. And it's urban fantasy. So I have a tendency not to like urban fantasy romance anymore because I read a lot of paranormal romance as a young adult. And so I didn't love it and I am unhauling it. So probably won't continue with the series. If I do, it'll be on audio. If I don't, I'll be fine. And then I had the arc of Victorian Psycho and oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start with this book. I loved it. It was hilarious. Yes, it is a horror, but I was cracking up like halfway or like, for most of the book, for half of the book. Like I was just laughing the whole time. This is a story about a governess who goes to this rich family and takes care of their kids, but she also has visions and dreams and thoughts of eating the children. She sometimes lets them get injured and sometimes licks their skin. It's so strange, but I had such a good time with this one. Such a good time. I would highly recommend it if that sounds like something that you would enjoy. But that's all I can say about it because it's kind of like a descent into madness. It is unhinged women. Like, if you like books about unhinged women, you would definitely love this. But I mean, I don't know what else to say. There's not much to say because anything else would be a spoiler. I wondered why the synopsis was so short on NetGalley and on Goodreads. I was like, oh, okay. But basically what I told you is all I can tell you without spoiling something else. And it was good. I loved it. I will probably be buying myself a physical copy of this book at some point, so that should tell you how much I enjoyed it. But I do need to start building up my horror collection a little bit more than I have been. And then, again, on a whim, I listened to Rhapsodic. I bought the entire series during a chirp sale. Sorry if I shifted. I had to run and grab something real quick. Anyway, I bought the entire series on a chirp sale for like $5. And it's because I had heard so many good things about this. One of my friends gave the first book 5 stars, and we have very similar reading tastes. So I was like, okay, sure. Because, you know, I checked the Goodreads stats and all of that stuff before I invested the money. This is about the bargainer and this girl who continues to make deals with him to the point that she owes him so many favors in return that if he were to collect these favors, she would be indebted to him for eternity. That's pretty much what it is. And I liked this, and I can see where the beginnings of like the Shadow Daddy trope started with Rhapsodic. At least I believe this is one of the first that had the Shadow Daddy trope in it. But I enjoyed every moment of reading it. Now, do I remember anything after the fact? Not really. What I just told you is what I remember. So it's not one that really stuck with me. There are some romantasy that really stand out in my brain. Heartless Hunter, you know, that series. Or Duology. But this one kind of was in one ear, out the other, but I had fun when I was listening to it. So for that reason, I gave it 3.5 stars. Next, a book that I had been dying to read since it showed up on my doorstep, The Resurrectionist. Now, I was a little unaware that this was true crime. I thought that we were going to be following a doctor in this time period who was doing nefarious things in order to progress the advances of science. And yes, that's true. That is a lot of what this book is about. But our main character is not the main person doing this, kind of gets sucked into that life and ends up falling in love. So this says, let me see if I can find the tagline. Historical fiction, true crime, and romance intertwine in a harrowing tale of murder, greed, and grisly origins of modern medicine. Yes, this delivered on everything it promised. And then in reading the author's note at the end, everything kind of ties together. So I do recommend reading that or listening to that if you have the audio, because it puts things into a little bit more perspective of the time and who we're talking about and how all of this actually went down in history. So very, very good. I still absolutely love this. And yes, this is the type of writing style you are getting in the book. So this book is one of the best representations of what is actually inside that I have seen in a while. And I loved it. I loved it. I did give this 4.5 stars though, not quite 5 stars. And for this one, it was just a feeling, you know when a book is 5 stars. And you get that feeling that, oh, this will be something that you just love for all time. This will be something that lives rent-free in your brain. While this was absolutely amazing, I don't think it's going to live rent-free in my brain. Now, would it make one of my top books of the year? Possibly. We're in the first quarter. I don't know. A lot of my 4.5s do make it because I'm a little stingy with my 5 stars. A little bit. Not quite like some other people, but it didn't quite give me the 5-star feeling. However, there was one that was undoubtedly a 5-star, and that would be Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. Now, check trigger warnings for this book before reading it because it holds absolutely nothing back in the content that you will find in this book. Now, this is about a school for girls who have gotten themselves pregnant and society wants to shove them away, let them pop out the baby, and pretend like nothing happened, bring them back home. They say that they were at a camp or staying with an aunt, or they make up some story, and then society welcomes them back once the baby has been dealt with. Now, the horror of this book really is the fact that this stuff happened This stuff happened in this time period. This stuff still happens today, especially in like high society. And we do deal with quite a few girls in high society in this book. And so you get to see that play out. The other horrific part of this is they don't hold anything back in the telling of birthing children. So that is quite chaotic. The supernatural element that Grady has introduced into this is witchcraft. The girls find a grimoire, or are given a grimoire, and they start to perform spells. Now, when this goes down, they realize they have maybe tied themselves to someone that they shouldn't have. And the story goes from there. Okay, so everything about this book is entirely immersive, and I will be thinking about a lot of these scenes for quite some time. This is going to stick with me. Again, a horrific period in time. It's chaos at its finest, which Grady is really good about that. Putting chaos into books without them going completely off the rails. I appreciate that because I don't need help with my ADHD just wandering. I absolutely love this. I've loved every Grady Hendrix. I also really love his social commentary. Grady is really good about wrapping social commentary and horror and humor and delivering it in a way, I won't say it's digestible for everyone, but for me, it really is, because these are things I would be reading anyway. Like, horror is something that I've always read. It's something that I've always loved. And I absolutely love this book. And I would recommend it so long as you can handle the content in the book. Okay, and then another one that was almost a 5-star for me, and that is Unromance by Erin Connor. Now, you may have noticed that I've been picking up a lot of my Aardvark books. I am really trying to push the goal of reading the books that I get in book boxes because I am ordering them because I want them. I'm not a rep for any of these places. I am not on any like affiliate list for these places. So these are books I really wanted. I ordered them. I wanted them. And I do have a tendency to get mystery thriller from Book of the Month, horror and romance from Aardvark. I get romance from Book of the Month as well. See that coming up soon in a book haul. Anyway, I loved this. This was so fun and engaging. We have a romance author who really has been jaded on romance because of the way things have gone down in her life. Also, 2 bisexual disasters right here in these 2. And her former lover, she was not the greatest and did her dirty. And so she's kind of like, I'm done with romance. I don't want to do it anymore. But she is also on a deadline for her new book. So she has to find an ending, but she's not satisfied with anything she's writing because she's been jaded on romance. And then we have an actor who is kind of a hopeless romantic and can't seem to break away from the patterns he creates in relationships. And so one night they meet and they have a one-night stand. And they're both very aware that this is what they signed up for. He's trying to break the cycle. She's trying to not get involved. And then they meet up again. It's like, you're a romance author. Please destroy romance for me. Like, let's do all of these things, all of these tropes that everyone falls into for romance and ruin them for me. Like, just make them bad. I don't want to think about romance anymore. I don't want to be this hopeless romantic anymore. And you're jaded, so you can help me with this. Obviously, this is a romance, so they start to fall for each other as they are destroying tropes along the way. It is just, from start to finish, very, very engaging. And I really, really love this. Again, this is a 4.5 star, not a 5. I just didn't get the giggling, kicking my feet, so enraptured in this romance that a 5-star would need in a romance for me. But very, very good, very entertaining. And the last book I read would be 6 Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. Now, ignore the tabs because I purchased it this way. I did not put the tabs in, but I really enjoyed this as far as like the world of Nyaxia goes, because this is about a girl who knows from like the get that she is dying. However, she's not willing to let the people that she loves die. And there is kind of this plague going around, and she's desperate to find a cure. Her name is Lilith. And in doing so, she goes to the vampire lord of this realm and says, hey, I will exchange something with you for a vial of your blood because I need to help my people. And she is an alchemist, so she's using the blood to create a cure. And so she meets with him once a month and brings him a rose every time. There is something tied to the roses. There is something about the roses that is special, but she doesn't want to reveal it until she finds a cure. So this does get her embroiled in the world of the vampires. This does get her embroiled in the world of the gods. I don't know why that didn't want to come out. And tied to people that she might not have wanted to be tied to, but she's known her death was coming for a very long time, and that it had been foretold when she was going to die, all of this stuff. And she wants to find a cure for her sister before she passes. I really, really enjoyed this. This was very close to being a 5-star. I think if it had been just a little bit longer, because she's short, I probably could have given it 5 stars, but it wasn't fleshed out enough for me to be fully invested in the story, but I do think it really adds to the world of Nyaxia. I really think that this is a must read if you're going to read the Nyaxia series. Now, does this pertain to any part of the plot in any of the other books? Not really. So, well, I can't speak for the second duology. I don't know if Lilith is a part of that or if our vampire lord is part of that, but I really, really enjoyed Six Scorched Roses. All right, that is my wrap up for March. I hope you guys found some books that you would like to read in this video. I hope I have given you insight into these books, but that I will see you guys in my next video, which will probably be either my May the Force Read With You TBR or a book haul.